I know who's here. And this is a statement of honor. Dear ones, if this is the first time you've been in a live channel, you might notice how quickly my partner went into this energy. And that is because I am always there. Just like anything that you have which is spiritual, it doesn't come and go. It doesn't go there when you report to a building and leave later. It's always with you. In these days to come, there will be many impressions, many things that you are seeing. Some things you want to know about, some things you question, some things you honor, some things that you know are just beyond beautiful. A culture of art, of worship, a culture of spirituality, a heavy akash, meaning that lifetime after lifetime is Italian. And it builds and builds into something spectacular over time. But I want to share a story. And it's a common story to you, but you've never heard me share this story, not like this one. Because this particular story is going to be in your face for days. And I want to give you a story, a grand story, a compassionate story about a man, a prophet, a master who came to this planet, and something I've never told, not this way. And you might find it unexpected the way I'm going to tell it. And some of the things that I may say. I am not here to tear away anyone's faith. I am not here to make you question what you think. I am here to love humanity and tell a great, great story. The story of Jesus, the man. You know it was prophesied that a master was coming, don't you? That's real. How much of what you hear is mythology and how much actually happened? And the answer is all of it happened. The mythology part is what men made of it in addition to what happened. Oh, but what happened? A master was on his way to the planet. A master with the potential of changing the earth. And he did. Long before he arrived, the prophecies were there. It was coming. He was coming. And he came. Let's start the story. Is the manger scene accurate? Dear ones, over time, many mythologies and realities compress and expand so that they're easily told. But I want to tell you that although it didn't happen all at once and it didn't happen where they said it happened, indeed, the child was visited by royalty. The child was visited by those who follow the stars. The child was visited by 3 wise astrologers and more. Not all at once, but over time. Because of the prophecies, to make sure it was real, to make sure it was the one. And it was the one. This is true. And if you take a look at why the man came, he came to change a paradigm. Now here's where it gets good. The man is a Jew. And in the times where he was, in what is now Israel, and the surrounding areas is where this all took place. All of his life, a Jew. But as he started to grow up, he started to feel and know who he was. Very quickly leaving home, stories you haven't really heard. This man was here to change something, a paradigm, and he objected to the rules of a judgmental God. A judgmental God who didn't care, a judgmental God who just Follow the rules, follow the rules. That's what he saw in the culture he was born in. His heritage and his lineage, he rejected. He started to make waves. He joined groups. Some say he was in a scene. But he had the wisdom of a holy man, of a priest. And he could recite things. He knew all about the history. He knew things at a very young age no one really knows at that young. He was seen as someone very, very special, even when he was part of the groups that were split offs and rebels. He was even called in certain circles the evil priest, because he was a priest. It didn't take long, dear ones, for him to make the first statements of why he was there. And I want you to listen to this, because this was all absolutely accurate and true. To this day, accurate and true. Listen. He says, I'm here to change the shifts of the past. I'm here to create a new paradigm of a living, loving God. To change the dispensation of God fearing as a father who is going to punish you with books and rules to something which is so grand. A new paradigm, a new dispensation, the dispensation of love. That God loves you like a son. In fact, so much so, you all can be called the sons of God. That's how much love there is. God knows your name. God loves you beyond measure. God knows who you are. It's not an uncaring God that'll punish and destroy. It's not a God of the past. It's not a God of law anymore. It's a God of love. And that was the message, and he started teaching it and preaching it. And more listened. And it goes on. Make no mistake the words he said. He said, I am the one. I am the only one, the scheduled one, to bring you this information. And no one is going to know about it unless it's through me. Because I am the prophesied one, the scheduled one, to bring this news. And the news is that God is love. And wherever he went, he said, remember, this is the way of it. This is the truth of it. This is your life. And I am the only one that can give it to you. I am the scheduled one that can give it to you. Listen to me, he said. And on and on. He showed humanity what humanity could do, and the power in there of even changing physics and altering things and healing things. He says, this is what a human can do with the love of God inside. No wonder they loved him. And he made waves. A lot of waves. You know, there is a lot of information that was written about this beautiful man that still is unrevealed. Unrevealed to the planet as a whole. Beautiful it is. Much of it was uncovered in Qumran. Not necessarily about the man, but about the dispensation of law, about the belief of the Jews, and the story of the man. But that's not all. There's been a lot of writing through the years, even after he was gone, through the years by those who loved him, who wrote the scriptures, but also the ones who were with him. There was another discovery in Egypt, in Nag Hammadi, of the actual writings of his disciples. The writings of John, the writings of Thomas, all there. What was it like? What did he mean? What did he really do? By the way, those writings have not been revealed in Scripture. You have to go find them. There's a lot that has been written. It is so amazing about this man. And then it happened. Of course, he knew his time was limited. He did. He knew it because he was scheduled as a master of this planet, and he knew who he was. Now, before you say, well, that's an unusual thing, how could that happen? I'd like to tell you that if you look at history, and you take a look at even the lineage of Buddha, they know who they are when they arrive. Their Akash is looked at and tested. This is no different, dear ones, to other masters, and there have been many on the earth. This man knew why he was here. He knew he wouldn't be here long to teach, and he wasn't. You all have the story. You all think you know what happened. Let us just say this. They terminated his teaching. And they put him on the wood. That's what you're going to see here in Italy. He's hanging on the wood. The Jews, they didn't want any part of it. He was too rebellious. He was a wicked priest, an evil priest. He was not really honoring the Jews. And the conquerors of the day, the Romans, the Italians, they put him on the wood. Too much trouble. He was stirring things up. And to make it even grander from their standpoint, they didn't tie him to the wood like they did those around him. They nailed him to it, as if to say, don't make waves. Look here. This is what happens when you make waves. Well, the waves that he made last to this day. And if you could hear him talk, you would hear him say the same thing right now. Listen, God is love. The Creator who gave you what you have inside loves you and knows your name like a son, like a daughter. That's the message of the man. He was taken down and put in a tomb. Now, it's very interesting, dear ones. Don't make anything more of this than this. The protocol of why they removed him had nothing to do with his state of being. It's against the law in Jerusalem to crucify after sundown. That law still exists. And when sundown came, they took him off and put him in the tomb. There were those who were allowed to accompany them and accompany him to the tomb and leave him as they rolled a stone in place. And that is accurate, and that is true. And his teaching stopped there. Now, as the story goes, a few days later, they saw the tomb was open. And a little after that, they saw he was alive. He had returned majestically. You know, a God-man would do that. And that's what he became. Now, here's what I want to tell you. Let's look at the reactions and what happens today. What was the reactions there of the Jews? Happy to be rid of him. Even to this day, not acknowledging what really took place of one of their own. And then you have those who have built his church. Look at the irony of the Romans who killed him and where the Vatican is, who built him up. The same culture started in such a beautiful spiritual way to honor him. Now, through the ages, things changed, but I'm not going to talk about that. You're going to see it. But let's talk about what humans have done with the man. What they've decided he was here for, the man. For many, many years, the depiction of everything he did and everything he taught the depiction, the statue, the symbol. He's on the wood, dying. That became untenable a little later. And there were so many protesting that they said, you keep putting him on the wood like he's always suffering and he's always there, but he's alive. So the ones who protested have the wood shown without the man suffering. Today there are over 400 sects of Christianity, all believing a certain way, still trying to figure out what he really meant and what he really said. And the only thing they have in common is that they love him. Because he's the one who gave them the idea, the dispensation of love, something you have today. Let me give you something that's interesting, dear ones. Something you're going to see. This man, this Jesus, the one who said, you're only going to find out the way and the truth and all that is your life if you listen to me, because God is love. He's not judgmental. He doesn't have rules. And look at where it has become today. Because Christianity became a judgmental God with rules. And dear ones, that is what humanity has done. You're going to see it in so many places, accompanied by some of the greatest works of art in the world. But there's something else happening even in the church today. They're starting to move away from a judgmental God, starting to make it more like the man said, starting to actually understand that the purpose of his visit was an example of the love of God instead of coming to do something. There are those who would love the man and feel they have to be saved by him or suffer a little in order to be like him. And then there are those who know something different because he's alive. And they look at him and say, I love you, and I don't even have a prophet. And everything in this great country centers around that occurrence. Dear ones, as you go forth in these days, take a look. With the correct story in front of you, a story of love, you get to see what the ages have done with it. You get to see the rebels within the church. You get to see the popes that weren't so popish. And you get to see the ones who really understood and loved this man and put him in their heart and his family. And to this day continue to understand he was there as a shining example of what I teach to this day to all of you. There is a Creator who knows who you are, who loves you, and you are almost unlimited in what you can do with this, especially with the shift. And the shift we'll explain later, although we've explained it many times. There are many who need to hear it, who will listen to this later. That's the story I've never really told, not like this. There have been many who says, well, that Kryon, you know, he's a channel. And that means that the Kryon energy in the channel has nothing whatsoever to do with that which you call religion. I'll tell you something. The masters of this planet, all of them, who taught the love of God, the oneness with all things, are my teammates. Indeed. Listen to them. For what they have to say in this new energy is starting to come forth to create a more peaceful earth, because the time is right for the message of the man to take hold. That's what I think. That's what I teach. I'm in love with humanity for these reasons. And so it is. Greetings, dear ones. I'm Kryon of Magnetic Service. We celebrate the place we are in. We celebrate the dedication and the love of this mountaintop monastery. For the original builders, what they were trying to do, as high as they could build, to touch the face of God, to show everyone around that they had time to build, to worship, to be. It's an honoring of the creative source. It's an honoring of God in whatever way they felt God would be honored. And in this, it participates in many ley lines. We sit in this place in the light rain, and so the message won't be long. But it's a message of wonder, how these things could be, how the ley lines could line up. But the wonder is in the heart of the human being. The wonder is in the exposition of God into you in whatever way you feel. I want to remind you of something. This is the second channel of a series. If you have tuned into this from some other place, some other source, this is number 2 in Italy in 2018. And so it goes with the first one, and there is a reason why these hooked together and these messages are given the way they are. The first one was a story that you know so well, but it started because it was a paradigm changer for the earth. You sit on this mountain, observing the beauty and the energy that is here because of this paradigm changer, this man. Then we say to you, after all of these years, what is the next paradigm shift? And was there a precursor of it? Was there anything that would say, what's next? And we ask this of you. If you're a senior here, you know what the prophecy said. Something was going to happen around the year 2000 and in that decade. Something was going to happen. Perhaps you were not one who read Scripture, but history. Perhaps you read Nostradamus. Something was going to happen. And the prophecies went on. No matter what the organization was, whatever the Scriptures you were reading, they all said the same thing. There is something that's going to happen. And so you look at it, it's the same kind of precursor energy. When the Master himself came, that was foretold. And so all of your scriptures were saying the same thing. Something is happening. Many of you said, well, it has to be the end of the planet. It has to be an Armageddon there. And this was common among humans to say, well, it's going to be the end. Perhaps it's going to be the beginning in certain ways, but something was going to happen. Now let me enlarge that for a moment, because the indigenous of the planet said the same thing. Long before the Master got here of love, there was prophecy of this timing. Within this time, the decades after the year 2000, if humanity was here, something was going to happen. Another paradigm shift. Another dispensation. And it has. Dear ones, that is what we speak of. We'll talk about the actual shift, perhaps at another time in this series. Some of you have heard it before, others need to. But this particular little channel right now is to remind you something has happened. Beautiful. Both the indigenous and the Scripture have said that this particular energy could be like, almost like a coming again of the Master. It could be, according to the indigenous who didn't even know the Master, it would be a change in human nature if we made it. We, humans, my partner, you. And here you sit in the 18th year after 2000. I want you to have a snapshot of this planet right now. In your life, Senior, let me ask you, 30 years ago, 40 years ago, you were looking at a Cold War. As many who could nuclearize themselves, as many who could do whatever they could on all sides were doing it. Peace was not an option. It was about strength. And today you're looking at just the opposite. This world wants peace. And what you're seeing is this, is those who don't want peace are either being ostracized or forced into peace. And you're seeing it on your news. You're seeing inappropriate behavior no longer being swept under the carpet. Did you notice? This is called light. And if I could summarize what it is, I would say this. It is the teaching of the man who was on the wood. You're in the right place at the right time, for this man is the one who brought that paradigm shift to the planet that said God is love and carries the light of the planet to you. We've got to a place now, dear ones, where this message can be known by so many. And it's not the message of worshiping a prophet as much as the message of understanding God inside. There is so much more, but you're right on schedule. This is not some doctrine of metaphysics. This is history. This is the prophecy from the indigenous and all of those, even in organized religion, coming to this place where they say, there's a paradigm shift, things are moving. And that is the message today. Right time, right place, on purpose. And you get to sit on the mountaintop for just a moment and lift your hand and say, thank you. Thank you for showing me that God is real. And so it is. Greetings, dear ones. I'm Kryon of Magnetic Service. Once again, we find ourselves in a public area. An area, however, that has been dedicated for a very long time to the things which are sacred in this land. Today you've gazed upon amazing restorations of ancient art. Did you ever wonder, when you were looking at it, about the soul of the painter? Now, I ask that because in this series of channels, this being number 3, I'm going to talk about that. I'm going to wait until there are more. I want more Italians to talk to about the soul and what it might be that you don't realize. You know, those who are responsible even for this building believed in an eternal soul, that it went somewhere, that it did something. Regardless of whether it was hooked to that which is their doctrine or their dogma, there was the belief that the soul lives on. It does, dear ones. And what it means truly is that regardless of what you've been told or you think, the soul is multidimensional. It is beyond anything that you are in here called earth. And I say in here because it's an enclosed reality. What I want to get at is what I'm going to talk about later. And that is, there is no death. Is it possible that that artist was actually there watching you watch the paintings that the artist did? As far-fetched as that might be, I will tell you there is a multidimensional aspect that says yes, that there is an awareness after death, and I'm going to talk about that later. Dear ones, this is a joyful bit of information for so many. Even 4 of you here need to hear this, that there is no death. that there is an element which lives on, perhaps even with you, and you can feel them. This would be part of the shift. The very aspect and paradigm of death itself and what happens to the soul starts to shift slightly in the new paradigm past 2012. In the last channel, we started telling you that the prophets of old started foretelling of a shift. It would be a shift more than just consciousness. It would be dramatic. In the calendars of the ancients, I speak of the Maya, the 5,125-year calendar ceased to exist. It was the end of the calendar. 5,125 years, approximately, as measured by the precession of the equinox of the Earth times 5. I'm not going to explain that. I'm just going to tell you that it comes from the stars. It comes from astronomy. That calendar talked about consciousness, and it ended in 2012. To many, this was frightening. It didn't just change. It didn't become another color. They tore it down. It was gone. December 21, 2012 was the middle of the Earth's wobble of 26,000 years before it started again, representing a 36-year window. It's astronomy, and it's also sacred prophecy from the ancients, long before any prophet that you've ever seen that you call yours. And in this, there is a story in itself. And the story is that there is more than just a change of consciousness. It is a change of dimensionality. Now, the Mayans didn't know anything about dimension. Neither did those who prophesied this time of consciousness togetherness, this time of the potential, if you didn't destroy each other, that instead there would be a sweep of human consciousness that had been coming, that would then start to develop and evolve to something higher than it has ever been. That is where you are now. And you're starting to see it even in your news in this 2018 time. It's starting to happen with those who are coming together instead of tearing things apart. But dimensionality? How could this be? Dear ones, it's tied to that which is you. It's tied to the reality and the paradigm you live in. What's real and what is not to you? And this is where it gets very interesting and why it's so difficult for some of you, even in this group, to understand what's coming. And that's not any criticism. That's a habit. Let me tell you something about this. You have what I will call the habit of mythology. Things that you believe, true or not, that have worked in your life, you put upon yourself as a badge of reality. And even if you're shown something that is obviously different, changing, better, you will often say, not for me. I'm not comfortable going there. And that is so understandable. But it also keeps an entire generation in the same mythology, in the same place that they have always been. It's a very interesting position to be in when you look around and see how it might work. You might have heard of chaos theory. Now, I'm not going to explain that to you. I'm just going to give you the same word in another paradigm. Some of you have been watching what the young people are interested in. And it's frustrating because it looks like they're not interested in much at all. In fact, the things that your parents told you you should do are not being followed at all by the younger generation. They're not interested in setting a goal. Did you notice? They're not interested in doing what you were told is needed to exist in your culture. It would seem that what they think and what they do and where they go is chaotic to some. Now let me say something to you, dear ones. One human's chaos is another human system. And what I mean by that is what looks chaotic to you may be a beautiful understanding of a new consciousness of togetherness, understanding that intuition will guide them to the right place, that they don't have to decide 8 years out what's going to happen or what they want to do or what they're interested in. That they'll go day by day and understand they might be guided to the right place and find their bliss and find their passion, and that's not what you were taught. Turn the page. Now you look into the future and you see the same. You don't truly understand the energy that is coming. In fact, some of you are frightened of it because it isn't what you're used to. It's not comfortable. And there's a tendency then to walk away from it or fear it or say, that's not for me, including channeling. All of these things slowly will be revealed to such a degree that you might even remember this day and this message and say, I wonder if he was right. I wonder if this was real. I wonder if things are really changing to this degree. And then there will be those who hear the message and say, it's good to hear good news, and then something bad will happen, and they said, well, I knew it would be false. Because you don't give the attribute of humanism credit. 2 steps forward, 1 step back. It's difficult to go into a future that is a dimension you have not seen. And what is this dimensionality anyway? I'm going to tell you what I told the group that I was with on the Danube. I'm going to tell you this that I've said before, that history repeats itself. Did you notice? History repeats itself. And this is part of physics. The parts of the atomic structure that you look at and you study, some of the quantum parts are time particles. Time is not linear. It doesn't go one direction, but it looks that way to you. And the frustration for you is that you tend to run over the same energies and create the same issues. So much is this true that futurists have looked at the earth right now and say it is way overdue for a war. And that is a statement that says this, that there's a war schedule. And that war schedule is the time fractal repeating itself over and over. And those who study this see the patterns. And that is frightening to so many people. They say, well, when will this happen? If you're overdue, that says, well, it's coming. And here's what I want to tell you. When you have a dimensional shift, it changes the circle of time. And what I told your Hungarian neighbors, if you're European, is this, is that they can no longer judge the future by the past. And now that's the message I will give to this group and anyone listening right now. There is a tendency to take everything that you believe and have been taught, including those things with our truth and mythology that are pasted upon you from birth, and not cross through that veil of dimensionality called the future. Because it's too hard to go to a place you've never been in your thinking. It's too difficult. And there are those of you who said, I'm too old to go there, not understanding it might even extend your life if you gave it a chance. If you took a look at it and said, I wonder if this is so, that we're not going to go into trouble again in the same way. Oh, it's difficult to know because there is no prophecy for the time. Did you notice? All the prophecies of old, including those of Scripture, Nostradamus, Casey, all of these things are not happening. Not happening. And that is because you moved off of the old track and the old reality. all around you. You look at that old reality. The potentials, all of these things, you can look at them, you can celebrate them, and put them into a book called history, not future. So this is what we talk about when we talk about the shift. A real event, prophesied, one that was guided by the stars and astronomy, and one that has a very long track record with multiple indigenous people for thousands of years. All talking about the potential of now. Now, what made the difference is this. You went through that shift, and other civilizations that you do not know about, that you've never been taught about, that were here on this planet, did not. You are number 5, dear ones. And number 4 is hard to describe to you because you'd have to dig to find it. There are those archaeologists who are just now finding it. And some are so much in the old paradigm, they deny it and cover it up. Number 3 will never be found, as well as 1 and 2. They're too old, they've been washed away, they've been eroded. But number 4 is findable. And when you see a civilization before you thought there was one, remember these words. There are those who didn't make it, who destroyed themselves on purpose. And you were about to do the same, and you know it, and you didn't. And that's the celebration, and that's the paradigm shift. That's the good news, that's the joy. And in that, there is even a change in your multidimensionality of your Merkabah and what it is and what it will become, and your ability to sense those who perhaps have even passed over that you thought you would never sense again. That's how profound the soul is. I'm going to tell you more about that as time goes on. Some of the things I talk about will be cryptic to you. You may want to listen again. But even if they are, I want you to remember this message. This shift was for you, old soul. So many of you who sit and listen are aware of the shift. Don't fear it. Embrace the change. And let this beautiful love from the Creator pour into you and say, that's free choice. Did you notice that no matter what the spiritual system, they're aware of the duality of choice for humanity. Every single spiritual system has that. And that is the free choice that brings you here. That's the free choice that creates a planet that is beyond the calendar, brand new, with a track before it that it has never trod on before. That ought to excite you, dear ones, and not frighten you. There's more. There's a lot more. But for now, it's enough. And so it is. Greetings, dear ones. I'm Kryon of Magnetic Service. It's a heartbeat it takes for my partner to get into this some call trance. My partner steps away. It's not Lee, but he's here. He steps away, and you might say he listens, doesn't know what's coming next. It's fast because it can be. It's fast because the human being is equipped for this. Not for channeling, but literally to be in two places at the same time. This is not going to be a profound teaching channel, dear ones. This is a reflective channel. The fourth in a series in Italy, the one before the seminar series tomorrow. Tomorrow I'm going to talk to a group of Italians. Right now I'm talking to an eclectic group from all over the planet. I'll say different things to them than I will to you. For they have come to hear about the Italian way, the spiritual information that may be there, as I've given to them in so many other towns in this great country. Kryon, some say, are you telling me you know what the channel is going to be? Let me put it this way. If you have a map, you know the destination, but there are many ways to get there. And the energy of the moment will determine what is said to get there. I know what the message is that I will give to the Italian people. Profound, powerful, heartfelt, beautiful. They need to hear some things that will undo perhaps what they've been told, to give them hope where some don't have it. Channeling is in the moment. It's like the painter who knows what the picture will be and chooses the colors as he or she goes. The words are the colors. They're beautiful, and they paint as the energy is there that demands the colors that get painted. This is the way channeling works. And each one of you, dear ones, each one has the ability to pull on this same source you hear right now. I'm going to ask you a question that I may ask tomorrow of those who are Italian. Number one, do you believe in reincarnation? I ask that because there are so many who do not. The spiritual system of this country does not. And there has been no teaching of it here of any significance at all. And so I ask you, and I will ask them, do you believe that perhaps you've lived before? And here's where I ask you to use your spiritual logic and reflection on who you are. The prevailing doctrine here is this, that you have a soul, and that soul goes with you, and it's eternal. And yet, it doesn't exist before you're born on the planet as a human. Therefore, there's some magic that occurs when you are born and you get a soul. And then it goes forever. I ask you, is this spiritual logic sound? Or perhaps you might add something to it, that your soul existed before you got here. That's the first step to saying, well, I'm going to enhance something that doesn't make sense. I believe the soul is eternal in both directions. In other words, you always were, and you always will be. Now, to some, that sounds blasphemous, because that means the soul is eternal just like God and always was there just like God. It isn't blasphemous when you listen to the words of the masters, the one that is worshipped here and so many others who say to you, the creation source of all things is inside every single human being. The master who is worshipped here many times referred to this, and he said, all of us are the sons of God. And he wanted to impress on every single human that there was some kind of a change happening right there where he was, a dispensation of love, and a realization that the soul that you have is God. Now, I want you to turn the page for a moment, because this was not new information, not for the world at all. Hundreds of years before that master came upon this planet, responsible for all of the compassion that has built these buildings, hundreds of years, there was another master. And even before then, a culture that didn't even have a master, no prophet at all. And the basis of all of their belief was the God inside. So when you think of what the man Jesus said, he was reiterating what so many masters had said before him. The Creator is inside you. And if that is so, and if that is true, that means that your soul is connected to that Creator. And if that is so, that means there was no beginning of your soul, and there will be no end. I want to talk to the Italian people tomorrow about that very thing. I might use some of the words I just did for you. And the reason I'm asking is I want you to reflect for a moment on who you are. You know, philosophers, many of them here, have for centuries asked the question, what is the meaning of life? Why do you exist? What is the reasoning for your being here? And I contend that that is the wrong question. That the explanation of why you're here would simply be an esoteric exercise in poor logic, because you don't really know the question you should ask. You exist, dear ones, to affect that which is around you. A famous sermon given by Buddha that started the Zen movement was a sermon without words. A sermon where Buddha held a flower, and for the entire time he just looked at it. All he did was look at it. Some in the ceremony got it and understood it, but what it means is this: the flower does not question its existence or why it is there. When you take a look at the flower, what you see is what it means to you, what it does to the surroundings, how it fits in with Gaia energy. What does it give back to the earth? What does it give to other flowers? What does it give to the insects? What does it give to your eyes when you see it, the lily? Do you understand that the existence of the flower does not question itself? And when you look at it, you see that it is connected to everything. That's you. You are the flower, the biggest flower that exists on this planet. You don't question why you exist. You instead look at your existence. How do you affect those around you? How do you intersect with Earth and Gaia and the things that are beautiful? What imprint do you leave here? If you believe that your soul is eternal in both directions, dear ones, it gives credibility and logic that perhaps you've lived before, and that is the system we teach. And hundreds of years before the prophet that is worshipped here existed, that was the system on earth that was taught. That is the first intuition that is spiritual of a human system. You've lived before, and you come back. And what I want to tell you is that your life, as you sit here right now, is not obvious to you. Think about what you say and what you do and how you act and how you love. Think about the compassion that you are able to share with others, not just family, but those on the street that honk at you. Think of the compassion. Does it make a difference? Or is it just high thinking? Does it create energy? Or is it just consciousness that goes away once you think about it? This new energy you're in on this planet is beginning to show and tell things that have never been shown and told before. My partner will bring that information. But to you, here's what it means: that everything you think, every action you have, creates energy and stays here. Every lifetime you've had builds on the last until you are here, old soul, in a small gathering in Italy, listening to this message about you. leaving imprints wherever you go. Did you know that when you're alone, perhaps in your room, what you think leaves an imprint? You don't have to necessarily be with anyone else. That is how powerful consciousness is. What do you think about when you're alone? Do you count your blessings? Do you send energy to those who need it so desperately on this planet, who don't have food like you do tonight? I asked my partner to do something very difficult, and he did it in a channel. He said to Americans, do you put light in the White House for your leader or not? What is the attitude toward government? Do you put light there or not? Do you see the power and the imprint that an old soul can have? I want to tell the Italian people how old they are and what has really happened here, so they will know what they're creating. It's beautiful, and perhaps that's why so many of them are going to come. But this is for you. Is death the end, as you've been told? So many have told you this. Or is there more? I have said this: death has no sting. You have had it so many times, dear ones, but you can't remember it because it wouldn't be appropriate. Tomorrow I may give a story about what it's like to die and the frustration of somebody who has passed over and yet is still here, watching those mourn, tear out their hair, and cry for years. And they're sitting there all the time, tapping their toe, saying, I'm here, I'm here, I'm here, I'm here, I'm here. This is a paradigm shift from what you've been told in an old system that doesn't see a bigger picture. A beautiful system that doesn't even know itself because it never got there yet. This is where you're going. I've said before, you don't know what you don't know. You're becoming quantum. And a quantum human being is beginning to have perceptions beyond that which you were taught. Don't be confused. Don't just turn it away because it's not what you were taught. I ask, are you your own person or are you what you were told? Do you have the ability to even open the box and say, I listen? Let the ancients, billions of them, before you who knew about this cycle, come to you even now and say, it is the way of it. It is beautiful. It is not a judging God, but a loving one that has created a system where you can come back and continue and never make the same mistakes you made this time. Never make the same mistakes you did this time. That is because this is a new dispensation. It's going to be called the dispensation of compassion someday. And you are the ones who are going to make that difference. Who are you? Who are you to yourself? When you take your last breath, is that it? Does it really feel like that's it to you? Or do you remember that's not it? Oh, there's so much more. We'll talk about that some more if you wish. These are the things right now that give so much hope to so many of you, perhaps who have not heard it in this way before. It's a beautiful system created by a beautiful God, and you have participated in that because God is in you. That is the truth. You're going to hear more of this truth. And so many revelations are going to start to occur from that which you think is static, organized religion, where they're going to start changing certain kinds of things in order to come in line with a greater truth that they will discover. Organized religion is not going to go away, dear ones. It's going to get better. In other words, the truth will prevail. And those who love the Jesus will continue for the same reasons they always did. But they will see a bigger system that he talked about, one that encompasses a loving God and not a judgmental God. And then you'll really understand who he was and why he should be loved so much by so many on this planet. Other prophets as well will start to change what they teach, or their interpretation will be different. There'll come a day when there will be no judgment between systems. You'll be free to worship God in any way you wish, with a prophet or no prophet. And no one will sit at your feet and accuse you of anything. They will say, isn't it great that God is so big that you can see different aspects, different faces, different ways, and you'd all be correct. That's how big God is. It is human beings who put God in the box and seal it off from one another. And that, dear ones, is an old energy that's going away. Be part of it. Who are you? In reflection, when you take your last breath, I promise that you will see the face of God in a way you never saw before. And where others around you who are still here may gnash their teeth and tear their hair and cry that you're gone, you'll know better. You're not gone. And everything you'll do will be to show them that you're not gone. And that is going to change as well. It's a new paradigm, dear ones. The veil is starting to get thinner. You're going to start seeing those you've loved and lost in a different way and know they're still around. And if that's all you get from this room and this seminar and this trip, that's enough. To go away with a greater hope in your heart and a knowledge you're not alone, even the ones you think you've lost. Think about that. And you will be in the same position. Death has no sting. It is simply another dimensional shift, another energy for you before you return, greater than you left. And so it is. Greetings, dear ones. I'm Kryon of Magnetic Service.
Saluti miei cari, sono Kryon del servizio magnetico.
Perhaps some of you have not seen this before.
Forse qualcuno di voi non ha mai visto questo prima.
How can a human being shift so quickly
Come può un essere umano cambiare così velocemente,
into an almost different dimensionality?
quasi ad una dimensionalità completamente diversa?
But that's what it is.
Questo è quello che sta accadendo.
And the answer is because God is inside.
E la risposta è perché Dio è dentro.
God is inside.
Dio è dentro.
Every master who ever walked this planet said that.
Ogni maestro che abbia mai camminato sul pianeta ha detto questo.
The one that is exhibited in this city said that.
Quello che è esibito in questa città ha detto questo.
You are the sons of God, all of you.
Voi siete figli di Dio, tutti voi.
There's a relationship
C'è una relazione
that perhaps you haven't really understood.
che forse non avete davvero compreso.
You deserve to be here.
Voi meritate di essere qui.
There's no accident that you're here.
Non c'è casualità per il fatto che siete qui.
There are so many things that I would like to talk to you about.
Ci sono molte cose di cui vorrei parlarvi,
Because I know who is here.
perché io so chi è qui.
Dear ones, I mean that in such love.
Amati, ve lo dico con molto amore,
Like you would recognize your family, I know who's here.
come se riconoscessi la mia famiglia, io so chi è qui.
I am from the other side of the veil,
Io vengo dall'altra parte del velo,
speaking through a human being.
parlo attraverso un essere umano.
Were you aware that all scripture was written in this fashion?
Siete consapevoli che tutte le scritture sacre sono state scritte in questo modo?
When humans become anointed with the love from the other side of the veil, they write.
Quando gli umani vengono unti con l'olio dall'altra parte del velo, loro scrivono,
They have profound connections.
hanno connessioni profonde.
It's why certain scriptures are like poetry and they're so beautiful.
Ed è per questo che alcune scritture sacre sono come la poesia, sono bellissime.
Some would even say they were channeled.
Alcuni dicono che sono state canalizzate.
That's God inside.
Questo è il Dio interiore.
If you haven't heard it before,
Se non l'avete mai sentito dire prima,
it truly is the story of creation.
è davvero la storia della creazione.
You are a piece of the creative source.
Voi siete un pezzetto della sorgente creativa.
And that is why you say you have free choice.
Ed è per questo che dite che avete il libero arbitrio.
From the oldest systems, you have that which is the explanation of duality.
Dai sistemi più antichi avete ciò che chiamate la spiegazione della dualità.
Through your consciousness,
Attraverso la vostra coscienza
you can think into high places and low places.
potete pensare ai luoghi più alti e a quelli più bassi.
That is your free choice.
Questo è il vostro libero arbitrio.
Dear ones, the reason I am here,
Cari, la ragione per cui io sono qui,
the messages of Kryon, the reason for that
i messaggi di Kryon, la ragione di essi,
is that consciousness on this planet is shifting.
è che la coscienza su questo pianeta sta cambiando.
If your great-grandparents could see you now,
Se i vostri avi potessero vedere ciò che sta accadendo ora,
they would tell you how different things are.
vi direbbero quanto sono cambiate le cose.
If you ask yourself, what does the world really want?
Se vi chiedete cosa vuole davvero il mondo,
Not just a few.
non solo alcuni,
And the overwhelming answer would be peace
e la risposta più grande sarebbe la pace,
with never even one war to come.
senza alcuna guerra in futuro, neanche una.
There was a time on this planet where it was very different.
C'è stato un tempo su questo pianeta in cui le cose erano molto diverse,
In fact, most of your history is very different.
e infatti molta della vostra storia è molto diversa,
Not now.
ma non ora.
And that is why we speak the way we do
Ed è per questo che parliamo in questo modo
of the things we talk about now.
delle cose di cui parliamo ora.
A message for the Italians.
Un messaggio per gli italiani.
I want you to look at some common sense for a moment.
Voglio che guardiate al buon senso ora.
Most things on the planet seem to happen randomly,
Molte cose sul pianeta sembrano accadere in maniera casuale,
but not here.
ma non qui.
You have more than your share of beautiful things,
Avete una parte molto grande di cose bellissime,
of artists,
di artisti,
scientists,
scienziati,
medicine,
medicina,
astronomy,
astronomia,
sculpture,
scultura,
all in one place.
tutto questo in un posto solo.
Italy is the design capital of Earth.
L'Italia è la capitale terrestre del design.
Does that seem to be random to you?
Può essere a caso per voi?
Oh, dear ones, there were many cultures who had sparks of greatness.
Cari, ci sono state molte culture con faville di grandezza,
But there's usually a time limit established with each of those,
ma con ognuna di queste di solito c'è un tempo limitato, stabilito,
about 200 years.
circa 200 anni,
They will call that their sweet spot or their glory days.
e chiamano questo periodo i loro giorni di gloria.
But in Italy,
Ma in Italia
it never stopped.
non è mai terminato.
What are the odds of this?
Quali sono le probabilità di questo?
I'm going to explain it.
Ve lo spiegherò.
Do you believe in reincarnation?
Voi credete nella reincarnazione?
I would say most of those in the room do.
Io potrei dire che la maggior parte delle persone in sala credono in questo.
Or you've come here because of these thoughts, which are esoteric.
E siete venuti qui a causa di questi pensieri che sono esoterici.
Did you know that almost half the earth is with you.
Sapevate che più della metà della terra è con voi?
Did you know that the original spiritual systems of the planet had reincarnation?
Sapevate che i sistemi spirituali del pianeta si rincarnano?
It was intuitive.
Era intuitivo.
Hundreds and hundreds of years before the Master of Love walked on this planet.
Centinaia e centinaia di anni prima che il Maestro dell'amore ha camminato su questo pianeta.
The teaching was reincarnation.
L'insegnamento prima di lui era la reincarnazione.
I tell you that so you know it's not new.
Vi dico questo per farvi comprendere che non è una cosa nuova.
It's not for the new age or just the esoteric thinkers of today.
Non è per le persone New Age o i pensatori esoterici di oggi.
Entire cultures, millions and millions believe in this.
Intere culture, milioni di persone credono in questo.
Could it be true that you've lived before?
È possibile che abbiate già vissuto prima.
The system hides from you, dear ones,
Il sistema si nasconde da voi, cari miei,
for you are concerned with this life and this life only.
affinché possiate essere preoccupati solo con questa vita.
I'm going to give another channeling today,
Oggi farò un'altra canalizzazione
and when I do,
e quando la farò
I'm going to tell you what happens when you leave here.
vi dirò quello che accade quando andate via di qui.
But right now I want to talk about the Italian Akash.
Ma ora voglio parlare della cascia italiana.
What is that?
Che cos'è?
The Akash is the experience of past life energy.
La cascia è l'esperienza di energie di vite passate.
What is it you carry in you
Che cosa portate dentro di voi
from a past life?
dalle vite passate?
And unlike so many others on the planet, I will tell you what you have.
E a differenza di molti altri sul pianeta vi dirò cosa voi avete.
You are Italian.
Voi siete italiani?
If you're an Italian today,
Se siete un italiano oggi,
the chances are very high
le probabilità sono molto alte
you were yesterday,
che lo siate stati anche ieri,
the lifetime of the past and the past and the past and the past.
nelle varie vite precedenti.
My partner talked about the circle of time today.
Il mio partner oggi ha parlato del cerchio, del circolo, del tempo.
And how you go around this circle and it enhances everything you've done in the past.
E come andate attraverso questo circolo e migliora tutte le cose che avete fatto nel passato.
In the case of the earth, war enhanced war.
Nel caso della guerra sulla terra è guerra ancora più potenziata.
And they got bigger and more horrible.
E le guerre sono diventate più grandi e sempre più terribili.
But in this land,
Ma in questa terra,
the biggest thing that gets enhanced is creativity,
la cosa che viene potenziata, quella più importante, è la creatività,
beauty,
bellezza,
design,
il design,
food,
il cibo,
astronomy,
l'astronomia,
physics.
la fisica.
Creativity has many faces.
La creatività ha molte sfaccettature
And there are those who would look at Italy and say, how is it possible
e molti guardano l'Italia e si chiedono com'è possibile
that so much was given to so few?
che così tanto sia stato dato a così pochi.
And the answer is in your Akash.
E la risposta è nella vostra cascia.
Listen, there's a system here.
Ascoltate, c'è un sistema qui.
Not all the cultures have this.
Non tutte le culture hanno questo.
Some of them have it for other reasons, but not all of them repeat and repeat and repeat.
Alcune di esse ce l'hanno per altre ragioni, ma non tutte ripetono e ripetono sempre di più.
So it's built in, isn't it?
Quindi è intrinseca, non è così?
You have a built-in system
Voi avete un sistema intrinseco
where Italians continue to repeat in the same areas.
e gli italiani si rincarnano e ripetono nelle stesse aree.
Families grow into bigger families.
Le famiglie crescono in famiglie più grandi
Let's make this clear.
e rendiamo questo più chiaro.
It's not always the same
Non è sempre la stessa cosa,
with other cultures.
soprattutto in altre culture. Non è così.
So the system is that you tend to repeat and get better.
Quindi il sistema è che tendete a ripetere e a migliorarvi, ed è così che è stato.
Why do people come to Italy?
Perché le persone vengono in Italia?
To see the center of all beauty.
per vedere il centro di tutta la bellezza.
You might say it runs in your blood.
Potete dire che scorre nel vostro sangue, nelle vostre vene.
It really does.
Ed è proprio così,
Or it's part of the system within your DNA.
perché fa parte del sistema all'interno del vostro DNA.
And you know it and you feel it.
E voi lo sapete, lo sentite.
Why would such a thing be?
Perché una cosa del genere è così.
Before we go any further,
Prima di andare